need to be able to see.
That better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So, some announcements and some kind of catching us up and landing right here. We completed the practice period. Had a wonderful Rahatsu retreat on Sunday and a wonderful, two wonderful closing ceremonies. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to be studying, focusing on Zen forms. I think in a certain way it's almost funny because you could spend lifetimes time. I mean, I'm going to bring forward in 2 weeks, which is 4 meetings, what feels essential and important to me. And there's worlds within worlds that you can investigate. Tonight we're going to talk about Zazen. Thursday we're going to talk about Kinhin. Next Tuesday we're going to talk about Sangha as a Zen form. Because these forms aren't just like, just do this thing, but there's something that happens when we do them in our own bodies and hearts and minds and in relationship to everyone. And then next Thursday, Constance and Marianne are going to do a little workshop kind of with us about service forms and chanting and more of the nitty-gritty. And then we're going to take sort of a 2-week break. We won't be here. Some of us, for some portion of that time, are going to be at Tassajara with the Wildland Firefighter retreat. And looking forward to that. So we'll be back then January 6th, and we will then continue on forever or until who knows what.
Chris, excuse me. I just want to let everyone know that the Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning sit will continue.
Great.
Gretchen's going to cover for me while I'm at Tassajara.
Great. Let's make sure that goes in the newsletter.
Okay.
And thank you for doing that. And in January, we're going to take up the harmony of difference and equality, the Sando Kai, which is the essential teaching in this school. It's a beautiful ancient poem, and I think it will help us be right here in this time, which is always the purpose. How does it help us right now? What's this have to do with anything? Yeah.
What's the book that you're
Branching Streams Flow On in the Dark, which is Suzuki Roshi's commentaries on the Sando Kai. So in the newsletter, there were some articles that were quite good, and people have been saying that, validating that. The fundamental book, which we've done in the past, focused on, and we're only going to spend a little bit of time on it, but I recommend it, is What is Zen? Plain Talk for a Beginner's Mind. Norman Fisher and Sue Moon, both friends, deep Dharma friends. Highly recommend it. So what is Zen? Why are you here instead of someplace else? I mean, it's such a mystery. Is why does one person practice in the community church just right here and take up that practice? And why does one person? Why are you here? And what are the 100 million causes and conditions and family and country of origin and so I was thinking as I was sitting here, some of you know this, and I'm just going to do this as kind of a contextualize. I never particularly went looking for Zen, and in fact, most everything I was doing, I was like everything else, probably fighting it, and I went in backwards. I was always like going into things backwards. When I was 26 years old, I was living in Ohio. I mean, I was born and bred in Ohio. And in my own 26-year-old kind of arrogance, actually, I looked around and I thought, ain't nothing for me here. And I came upon Ed Brown's bread book, which had just been published then. Some people come to Zen because of the teachings, or because of statues, or because of who knows what. For me, it was, I looked at that bread book and I thought, this person knows how to live. There's something here that I packed up my whole life and essentially hitchhiked to San Francisco, into San Francisco Zen Center, and just never turned back. But really, all I wanted to do was, for me, this has always been a very physical practice. I mean, I love that. You sit Zazen, you do this with your body. You sit Zazen, and the forms are just, they're a physical embodiment. And mostly I just wanted to go to Green Gulch Farm, and I wanted to work in the garden, and I wanted to sit, and I wanted to be in community with people, and mostly I just wanted to figure out how to be here, because I cared about the world and I didn't have a clue, because nobody particularly had taught me. I was a resident and trained and lived at all the different practice places, San Francisco Zen Center, for about a decade. Then went into the world with my husband, who's also a Zen person of Zen and now a teacher. Did some Tibetan, became a therapist, did some of this, did some of that. But in the end, it's funny how something gets in deep. And when Norman Fisher founded Everyday Zen on the premise of Zen is about everyday life, that felt to me like, oh, that's why I came, and that's what I'm looking for. And that's, we sit here, and obviously these aren't, we're carrying Zen forms very lightly here. We carry them more, I was going to say professionally, when we do all-day sits. And there's a beauty to walking into a zendo. It's like walking into the Tassajara zendo. It's just like your whole body just lines up. I loved that at Green Gulch Farm, we sat in a cow barn. That really mattered to me. And I loved in Keenheen that you could feel the grooves in the floor of where the cattle hoofs had been. Again, there's something physical about this, embodied. And the dignity is just the dignity of being a human being, and forms and ways to bring forward that which we know is inherent in each one of us, even in the midst of all of our confusion, or what, we all got our stuff. But there is some upright beauty that Zen feels like a mirror of. And Ed Brown, bringing that forward through baking bread. I just thought that was the most amazing thing. I still do. And then each one of us brings it forward through our own lives. And the forms and the tradition is beautiful and deep. And I love that there's an ancient tradition that you can keep meeting, so that you just don't keep making up standards on your own. It's like, what is Dogen saying? Not that Dogen's some god that you should believe in, but it's like he's pointing at something. And the sutras are all pointing at something that you can just, I didn't really get into studying for probably decades. And maybe, actually, I've heard said, don't. Like, that comes later. Just learn it in your body. Just show up. Just be in Sangha. Just practice. And then the rest of it then doesn't come from the head down. It actually comes out of, it's like now because we're going to do a little Dogen tonight. Dogen used to drive me crazy. Still does sometimes. Because I always just wanted, I'm from Ohio, for goodness sakes. I just want, just say what you mean. What is all this Zen stuff? And then I went on, as my husband and I were wont to do, still are, went up in the mountains on a camping trip and took Dogen with me, and I was sitting by a mountain lake and was reading Dogen, and suddenly it started to sing to me because I wasn't doing it with my head or trying to beat at the door anymore. It was like the song of everything. And I think once something like that opens, then you kind of, even when Dogen or these things seem obscure, or there's some kind of faith that you just entrust yourself to with gratitude. And that's how I feel about the forms at this point. Is, these were passed down. And they're not rules, they're not absolute. They're just, they're deep, it's deep kindness. And there's a million different forms. You know, I mean, the Catholic Church has forms that are really beautiful, and it's just, I just feel grateful to these, and grateful that you all come, and here we are. So that's my little introduction to, I'm gonna, first chapter in What is Zen? What's the point? What is Zen? A good place to begin. The simple answer is that Zen is Zen Buddhism, an Asian religion now practiced all over the world. Broadly, there are three forms of Buddhism: Theravadan Buddhism, which emphasizes the earliest scriptures that seem to be mostly about individual liberation; Mahayana Buddhism, which emphasizes compassion and social concern as much or more than individual liberation. That's the tradition we're in. And Vajrayana, the Buddhism of Tibet, that adds detailed esoteric ritualistic practices. I tried Tibetan for a while. All those colors and sounds, I thought that was so cool. I thought, this is for me, forget that Zen stuff. And then I had to learn all these mudras and all these things, and in the end, I mean, there's so many, it's so wonderful we get to do all of these, but for me, in the end, it was just, can we just sit down and be quiet? It was just, I came home to just this. But please, they're wonderful. Zen is a form of Mahayana Buddhism developed in China about 1,500 years ago, more than a millennium after the time of the historical Buddha, and exported to Korea, Japan, and Vietnam centuries before it came to the West. We're going to spend a little time Thursday, Thich Nhat Hanh, not in our strict lineage, but Thich Nhat Hanh changed everything in the West. I have nothing but profound gratitude. In China, Mahayana Buddhism met Chinese culture to make a new form of Buddhism that was both intense and formal, and at the same time simple, even poetic and funny in its literary style. Like all religions, Zen Buddhism has a clergy, ritual, scripture, hierarchy, and so on. It's all the stuff I never liked, I still don't. But it's a religion, so there you go. How do we live this? How do we do this in a way that's authentic and real? The quintessential practice of Zen is Zazen, sitting meditation. So the word Zen usually carries an aura of silence and the ineffability associated with silence. And it's also about carry firewood and draw water. That's the other part of it. So that's Zen 2, full attention to all activities of everyday life. Hence Ed Brown's Bread Book. Just a little bit more. Zazen is fundamentally sitting with the basic feeling of being alive. Now, how cool is that? What constitutes the basic feeling of being alive? Being embodied, breathing, conscious. This is what it feels like to be alive. I feel like I was brought up in a culture and a family system, bless their little hearts, where I was living, what's the thing about Mr. So-and-so was living 100 miles from his body or whatever. I was a football field away from my body. And I had no idea how to come back. I am so happy to say that in this lifetime, I'm a little closer. I can feel what it is to be alive. That makes me cry. Which is full spectrum. Sorrow, joy, tenderness, don't like it, get me out of here. Wow, I can't believe the wonder it's alive. Every moment, your life and all your feelings, thoughts, and accomplishments depend on the fact that you are embodied, breathing, and conscious, but most of us hardly ever notice these experiential facts. In Zazen, the task is just to be present with this basic human experience and nothing else, simply sitting in awareness of the feeling of being alive. Okay, so here's what I thought we'd do. Is if you went to San Francisco Zen Center, or to probably many more formal, form-oriented Zen centers, part of the liturgy, there are things that are chanted in the Zendo. One of them is Fukan Zazengi, which is Dogen's fascicle on Zazen. And I thought, I would have brought more. I didn't think anybody would come tonight because we just came out of practice period. So what kind of faith is that? Wow, you all surprised me. This is delightful. But so it means you're going to have to, which is kind of, we're going to put it on for those of you on screen. So what? We're just gonna. I'm going to announce it like it's a chant, and then we're just going to chant it. Don't try to figure it out, just be in it, okay? And then if certain phrases come forward, because I'm going to, later we'll come back and just see if there's anything here that you don't have to understand it. Just see if a word or a phrase, like in Zen, there's this thing about turning words or phrases. It's like, there might be a word in this that could change your whole life, who knows? Or you may just think the whole thing is dumb and boring. But anyway, we're going to do it. So when you do it with your whole body and presence, okay?
Can you read that?
Yeah. Does everybody have access to one? And then this one, if some of you want to come up close and use that, you can do that too.
You guys need an extra,
You can sit around. You got enough, everybody?
Thank you.
Okay.
Did you say it's gonna be in the newsletter?
This one, we can put it in there. Fukan Zazengi. The way is basically perfect and all-pervading. How could it be contingent upon practice and realization? The Dharma vehicle is free and untrammeled. What need is there for concentrated effort? Indeed, the whole body is far beyond the world's dust. Who could believe in a means to brush it clean? It is never apart from one, right where one is. What is the use of going off here and there to practice? And yet, if there's the slightest discrepancy, the way is as distant as heaven from earth. If the least like or dislike arises, the mind is lost in confusion. Suppose one gains pride of understanding and inflates one's own enlightenment, glimpsing the wisdom that runs through all things, attaining the way and clarifying the mind, rising in aspiration to escalate the very sky. One is making the initial partial excursions about the frontiers, but is still somewhat deficient in the vital way of total emancipation. Need I mention the Buddha, who was possessed of inborn knowledge? The influence of his 6 years of upright sitting is noticeable still, or Bodhidharma's transmission of the mind seal. The fame of his 9 years of wall sitting is celebrated to this day. Since this was the case with the saints of old, how can we today dispense with negotiation of the way? You should therefore cease from practice based on intellectual understanding, pursuing words and following after speech, and learn the backward step that turns your light inwardly to illuminate yourself. Body and mind of themselves will drop away, and your original face will be manifest. If you want to attain suchness, you should practice suchness without delay. For Zazen, a quiet room is suitable. Eat and drink moderately. Cast aside all involvements and cease all affairs. Do not think good or bad. Do not administer pros and cons. Cease all movements of the conscious mind, the gauging of all thoughts and views. Have no designs on becoming a Buddha. Zazen has nothing whatever to do with sitting or lying down. At the sight of your regular sitting, spread out thick matting and place a cushion above it. Sit either in the full lotus or half lotus position, or in a chair or on the floor. In the full lotus position, you first place your right foot on your left thigh and on your left foot on your right thigh. In the half lotus, you simply press your left foot against your right thigh. You should have your robes and belt loosely bound and arranged in order. Then place your right hand on your left hand and your left palm facing upward on your right palm, them tips touching. Then sit upright in correct bodily posture, neither inclining to the left nor to the right, neither leaning forward nor backward. Be sure your ears are on a plane with your shoulders and your nose in line with your navel. Place your tongue against the front roof of your mouth with the teeth and lips closed shut. Your eyes should always remain open, and you should breathe gently through your nose. Once you have adjusted your posture, take a deep breath, inhale and exhale. Rock your body right and left, and settle into a steady, immovable sitting position. Think of not thinking. How do you think of not thinking? Non-thinking. This in itself is the essential art of Zazen. The Zazen I speak of is not learning meditation. It is simply the Dharma gate of repose and bliss, the practice realization of totally culminated enlightenment. It is the manifestation of ultimate reality. Traps and snares can never reach it. Once its heart is grasped, you are like a dragon gaining the water, like a tiger taking to the mountains. For you must know that just there, in Zazen, the right Dharma is manifesting itself, and that from the first dullness and distraction are struck aside. When you arise from sitting, move slowly, quietly, calmly, and deliberately. Do not rise suddenly or abruptly. In surveying the past, we find the transcendence of both unenlightenment and enlightenment, and dying while either sitting or standing, have all depended entirely on the strength of Zazen. In addition to bringing about of enlightenment by the opportunity provided by a finger, a banner, a needle, or a mallet, and the effecting of realization with the aid of a hosu, a fist, a staff, or a shout, cannot be fully understood by speculative thinking. Indeed, it cannot be fully known by the practicing or realization of supernatural powers either. It must be deportment beyond hearing and seeing. It is not a principle that is prior to knowledge and perceptions. This being the case, intelligence or lack of it does not matter. Between the dull and the sharp-witted there is no distinction. If you concentrate your efforts single-mindedly, that in itself is negotiating the way. Practice realization is naturally undefiled. Going forward in practice is a matter of everydayness. In general, this world and other worlds as well, both in India and China, equally hold the Buddha seal, and overall prevails the character of the school, which is simply devotion to sitting, total engagement in immovable sitting. Although it is said that there are as many minds as there are persons, still they all negotiate the way solely in Zazen. Why leave behind the seat that exists in your home and go aimlessly off to the dusty realms of other lands? If you make one misstep and go astray from the way directly before you, you have gained the pivotal opportunity of human form. Do not use your time in vain. You are maintaining the essential working of the Buddha way. Who would take wasteful delight in the spark from the flintstone? Besides, form and substance are like the dew on the grass, destiny like the dart of lightning, emptied in an instant, vanished in a flash. Please, honored followers of Zen, long accustomed to groping for the elephant, do not be suspicious of the true dragon. Devote your energies to a way that directly indicates the absolute. Revere the person of complete attainment who is beyond all human agency. Gain accord with the enlightenment of the Buddhas. Succeed to the legitimate lineage of the ancestors' samadhi. Constantly perform in such a manner, and you are assured of being a person such as they. Your treasure store will open up itself, and you will use it at will. Did you get it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. For me, after all these years, I am so grateful to Zazen. I am so grateful to sit, to ground my life in something that grounds my heart and my body and my mind. I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity when I was young to sit longer retreats in a monastic setting. It's hard. It's hard to figure it out when you're older, or if you have a family, or you have to support. I mean, these are all big questions for religion in the West. But there's something about devotion. Devotion to just coming back. Zen means just sitting. But I don't think it means that you should devote your life to, let me see, I want to say this carefully. I am not a monastic, and I don't think any of you are. If you can go into a monastery and spend time, and that's your calling, then please. It's an amazing, wonderful thing to do. I've always wanted to be in the world. Zazen body is a way of being in the world. It's a way of making bread. It's a way of being with fire. It's a way of being with the person next to you. It's a way of being with this self and in relationship to this self. It's a way of tenderizing the heart. It's a way of kindness. And the wonderful teaching to me ultimately of oh my goodness, look what time it is Dogen says it's practice realization. There's no end point. It's just forever. Just show up. Just show up. Sit down. Ground. So let me, because I want to give you just a few minutes to, but I also wanted to give you Blanche Hartman. Blanche Hartman was the first female abbess of San Francisco Zen Center. I'm fond of saying I knew Blanche when she was just Blanche. But even when Blanche was just Blanche, when I was a new student at Green Gulch Farm, and there would be 7-day retreats, and I was just exhausted and tired and hurting and confused and running out of the Zendo at the end of the day, Blanche was sitting there like a rock and like a dragon. I had no idea. You know, it was just, we help each other. People who've been doing this for a while help people who just wander in. And we're all Buddhas. And Blanche helped me just by being Blanche and sitting with such fierce determination. So I don't want to take, because in her book, Seeds for a Boundless Life, Zen Teachings from the Heart, Zenju, Earthling Manuel, was her student, and she transcribed these talks. And Blanche talks about Fukan Zazengi, so and in a way that humanizes it, makes it accessible. But what do I want to say from this? You know the thing about when you lean to the left and the right? You can feel that. It's a beautiful thing to do. You get, it's like a pendulum. You can feel it. She says, when you do get yourself so that you're not leaning in any direction and your weight is going straight down through your sitting bones into the earth, then all of the muscles around your lungs can be soft and you can have much more spaciousness for breath because the musculature around your lungs is not tight. Often when I find that balance point, there will be an automatic inhale that will happen just because the lungs will expand when the muscles around it are not tight. It's like this is a full-bodied, more and more subtle opening. It's wondrous. Maybe the mudra, often called the cosmic mudra. I'll just read you this last part. I think of the mudra as a kind of a receiver. One teacher at Sakoji, where Suzuki Roshi first came, where I first started practicing, said, you can visualize your out-breath as falling down like a waterfall, and your in-breath as coming in through your mudra. You know, the mudra is the way you hold your hands. And filling you up. And sometimes when I do that, I find it very energizing, but also very receptive to whatever is happening. And once when I was sitting as sesshin, a longer period of sitting, at some point I was just flooded. I felt a tremendous warmth and energy and love and compassion that just flooded me. It felt as if it were coming from everyone in the room, in through my mudra, filling me up. It started with gratitude, but it built into a warm energy that made me feel so imminently connected with everyone in the room and wanting to sit with this room full of people who are studying how to live their lives so as to benefit all beings. That's a pretty rare opportunity to be in a room full of people in that way. So it's one of the weird things in Zen is that we don't talk about Zazen. We read fucking Zen, but nobody says, I mean, sometimes you come in Dokusan with your teacher, but like, what's Zazen like for you? And we don't have that long. And maybe there's something else that in the Fukan Zazengi, or just like, what in the world are you talking about, or whatever it is. But you got about 10 minutes here. Could you just turn to somebody, and I'll put you guys in twos too. It's like, what's Zazen for you, or what's any of this